Hello folks, we're not wasting much time on an intro today. I've heavily timestamped this video, so if you're looking for something specific, then do feel free to skip ahead. Otherwise, I have structured this guide in a relatively sensible order. As a somewhat large side note, I am happy to announce I'm giving away a Steam key for the standard edition of Clair Obscur Expedition 33. All you need to do is like this video and comment hello folks below. Feel free to subscribe, but it's not a requirement. The reason I'm asking for a specific comment is there will be viewers who comment below regardless, and I would preferably like to differentiate between the two. I will be drawing a winner in roughly 4 days' time. Today's date is the 25th of April, and the draw date will be on the 29th of April. I will be publicly announcing the winner in a YouTube post, and just to clarify again, this is a Steam key giveaway for the standard edition of Clair Obscur. So good luck, folks. Okay, so starting with the most basic mechanics and then working our way up, we're first going to cover stat allocation. The simplest way to put this is, all weapons will scale their damage from different stats, and you're likely to be cycling through weapons a lot. Due to the fact that you have a limited amount of respecs, you probably shouldn't focus on these scaling stats too much. Instead, a more sensible idea is to focus on vitality, agility, and luck. Vitality generally scales damage as well as increases max health, which is very useful for all characters. Agility increases your speed and thus increases how soon and often that character gets their turn. And luck increases critical hit chance, which naturally is very strong and also ties in with a lot of abilities throughout the entire game. This can all be said for the beginning portion of the game at least, due to the fact that you will be changing to better weapons more often, and it won't be until the late game that you actually start to really refine these characters. Moving on to Pictos, put simply, equip any Picto onto a character and they will now have whatever buff that Picto grants. Complete 4 individual combats with that Picto equipped, and it will then become available for all characters to equip if they have enough Lumina. The main thing to consider here is you can have a mixture of both Pictos and already learnt Picto skills equipped all at once. Each character can have 3 equipped, even if the Pictos have already been unlocked, and then additionally, you can use your Luminous points to allocate already learnt Pictos, meaning there is a great deal of flexibility here, especially much later on in the game. As a brief example of exactly what I mean, I have Gustav equipped with augmented aim, marking shots and burning shots, making his gunshots now deal 50% more damage, as well as have 20% chance to inflict burn, and also have a 20% chance to apply a mark. Partner these up with dead energy, and if Gustav is able to kill any enemies, he will regain 3 AP and can often gain back more than he spends. Additionally, he makes for a solid character to target enemy weak points now, given he can apply so much more with his ranged attacks. It's just an example, and a very rough one at that, but can see how the Pictos can be used to really define your specific character roles, and I'm sure it will certainly lead to lots of exciting combinations. Moving on to the consumables next, and there isn't a great deal to explain here. Consumables almost act like any Soulsborne game, in which they can only be replenished when we rest. We have 4 separate consumables to begin with: the small healing, energy, and revive tints, which heal 30% health, 3 AP, or revive allies respectively, and these can only be used in combat. And then we have the chroma elixirs, which heal the entire party, but can only be used outside of combat. Along your journey, you'll also collect additional tints, which will increase the number of these consumables available. Always consider using these. They are a core component of staying alive and making solid plays. In addition to these consumables, you will collect various tints along your journey, such as the chroma catalysts and colors of Lumina. You won't be able to use these immediately, but these will eventually become usable a little bit later on in the game, and as of then, you can begin increasing your max luminous and upgrading weapons. With these mechanics explained, I feel it's a good idea to very briefly cover the starting character strengths. Gustav obviously has his overcharge ability, which when charged up is very strong, but outside of this, he does have some early self-sustain abilities and the ability to buff allies' damage. If you can perfect cast this, then the entire team will receive the buff, so this is worth knowing. Additionally, Lune has a very early heal skill and a revive skill, both worth picking up early, and you'll likely find yourself using these a lot. As a side note, Lune is naturally very strong due to her healing and revive, so you'll likely find yourself wanting her in your party a lot. Now, as for the actual combat of the game, the most important things to know here are these. Parry is ridiculously strong and easier to pull off than you'd think. Landing these can really trivialize a fight, given they negate all damage and deal very good damage back. Also, at zero cost to the character, the timing is a little different to what we've come to expect from most parrying mechanics. You basically want to time this for the instant the attack lands on you. It can take some getting used to, but if you are struggling with the parry, then a solid strategy is to dodge instead, as this does have a larger window of invulnerability, and perfect dodges use the same timings as a parry would. So if you can get pretty good at perfect dodging, just switch it over to parries instead. Additionally, some enemy attacks will require multiple parries in order to proc the counter attack, but learning these will mostly just come with time. The second main factor of combat I'd like to talk about is element types and burn. Firstly, all enemies are resistant and weak to different elements. Using these to your advantage can really help, but you'll be required to try different elements on different enemies to learn more about specific resistances and weaknesses. If you're struggling with a particularly tough fight, then consider mixing up your weapon to a different element and seeing if this helps. Additionally, burn is very strong. All characters can in some way inflict burn, and stacking this is a very useful strat, as I noticed very early on that this would consistently deal very good damage that has persisted throughout my entire playthrough so far. In addition to all of this, do not sleep on your ranged attacks and enemy weak points. Some of these weak points are more obvious than others, but they can drastically turn a fight around, and in some instances, this can be very, very strong. Coming up next, and practically in addition to the combat, we have different weapon types. It's all quite simple for the most part, but the important notes are, don't main just one weapon. You'll have a much easier time if you cycle through 2 or 3 different weapons of different element types, and not one single weapon will outperform all of the others. Naturally, this means it would be wise to level up 2 or 3 different weapons for each character, so as to not require a specific weapon later on, only to find out it's drastically underleveled. Now, to cover something I do feel is worth mentioning, despite it not occurring for quite some time into the game, would be the temporary damage cap of 9,999 damage. You'll likely hit this roughly a quarter or 1/3 of the way through your playthrough. This will eventually lift, and the end game damage does go much higher, but you will at some point enter into a temporary period of time where your damage will not exceed 9,999, and so during this period of time, you will want to focus more on multi-attacks as opposed to single attacks. That's quite literally it. You'd simply just be shooting yourself in the foot if you were to focus more on single attacks, so just bear this in mind. As a final note on combat, I will add that the QuickTime events can be turned off if you go into the settings and head on over to accessibility. Here, you can turn them off if they're not really your thing. Final note for this guide, I just wanted to mention that the expedition basics are located within the start menu, and here you can read up on a lot of the in-game mechanics, and if there is anything you're unsure about, it's very likely to be located within here. Additionally, within the start screen, you also have the option to load up previous auto-saves in case you wanted to go back for any particular reason. This can also be done from the main menu when continuing with your save file, and is definitely worth knowing. That's it for this guide, folks. I do have a range of guides on the channel, and I am working hard on many more, so do feel free to stop on by and check things out. Don't forget about the Steam Key giveaway if you are interested in a copy of Clair Obscur for yourself. Otherwise, thanks for watching, folks, and until next time, peace.